Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is the best thing from 2021. It's Frank. How are you today?
That is a lot. That is a lot of pressure. I don't know if I can handle it, but I will do my best to carry it gracefully.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, you know, the 2021 is over. So, you know, you don't really, you know, have to carry that torch.
I guess that's true. And also, it was kind of a crap year, so it's just sort of like by default. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll take it.
So, Frank, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking an Oskar Blues Brewery Imperial Red IPA. It is their Goodnight Imperial Red IPA. I found this in the back of my fridge.
2021.
Good night, 2021. Bye-bye. Yeah, I found this one knocking around the back of my fridge and didn't realize it was still there, but it was sort of a happy surprise. So there you go. Yeah, saying good night to 2021. What are you drinking?
That is very cool. I am drinking a Till It Shines, a collaborative beer, which is a Kolsch, and it's a collaborative beer between two different brewing companies, which I thought was really cool. It is brewed in collaboration. It is from the Proclamation Ale Company in Warwick, Rhode Island, which is near me, brewed in collaboration with the Kent Falls Brewing Company, into which I have zero idea where they are, because it is not on the can. But it is a Kolsch, and it is delicious, and I thought it was appropriate because Till It Shines, because, you know, like the new year, the ball drops, it's all shiny and stuff, and also because this is highlights, lowlights, and, you know, shining is a part of it. But not The Shining, which came out in 1980 and will not be a part of the best of list, though it is very good.
Yes, it just didn't come out this year, so, you know, legally not allowed.
Yeah, just, you know, no, we're a little far removed from The Shining.
A bit. Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah, a bit. So, it is. Yeah, that is a good Kolsch. Oh, can's big, too, so I got a lot of Kolsch to drink.
I love a Kolsch. I really do.
Me too. Love a Kolsch. It's so good. Kolsch better than lager.
Kolsch better than lager. Yes, I will agree. Kolsch better than lager. I'll go along with that. Yeah, I'll co-sign that. I did use my one lookup already to find out that the Kent Falls Brewing Company is based out of Kent, Connecticut. So there you go.
Oh, wonderful. There you go. I wonder if Clark lives there. Nerds. Nerds. Anyway, we are on Beer with Geeks, being nerds. Who'd have thought? So here are the rules for the best of highlights, lowlights. Go through a bunch of stuff, whether we watched it. Is it a highlight or a lowlight? Highlight meaning it was good. Lowlight meaning it was fine too. It was terrible. But mostly I think I only really have I have a lot of highlights here, not tons of lowlights, but if I did come across something, like one of us came across the same thing that either of us came across, we can say whether it was a highlight for us or a lowlight. Because if we went through everything that we watched or everything that we read or whatever this whole year, then we would be here forever.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So as of right now, as of this day on this podcast, or the day we were recording, I am on book 147 of 150 for the year.
Wow,
so
that's impressive.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So if I went through every single one of those books, then I would have no show on Read Up, the book about the podcast about books, which you can find on the Thought Bubble Audio Network. What you're listening to right now at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. Great. What a segue.
Great segue.
Which is something that is not on my highlight low light list either. So, Frank, give me something from you. What is a highlight low light?
Okay, I'll start with a highlight. I'll start with, I don't remember if I talked about this on the show or not, but AMC's new series, Kevin Can F Himself.
No, you did not talk about that.
Are you familiar with it at all? Or have you?
No,
okay.
I have not.
So, it is such an interesting concept for a show. It is the perspective of you have a typical sitcom like Everybody Loves Raymond or a Seinfeld, that style of sitcom, right? Where let's look at Everybody Loves Raymond in particular, because you've got the husband who's like maybe get himself into trouble, and you've got the wife.
I do know this show. Yes, you have talked about
okay.
this show before,
and she's always sort of the one who's like crossing her arms and is like, "Oh, I can't believe you did the." It's actually sort of like the flip of like the Lucy and Ricky dynamic, right? Where Ricky's the one like Lucy, and Lucy's getting herself in trouble, right? Well, it's a take on that premise, but it's from the wife's perspective, where she's like watching him always get into these crazy situations and having to pick up the pieces later. And it's this very interesting thing where whenever he leaves the room, it changes from a 3-camera sitcom to a like sort of darkly lit drama,
single camera
drama. Yeah. And the tone just shifts. It's such an interesting show and such a cool show, and like such a different perspective. And she is like, she starts this as this very demure, sort of getting bulldozed by him all the time, and gradually becomes more and more empowered. And by the end of the season, it just things go off the rails, and it's crazy, just how empowered she gets, which I won't spoil. But
that's awesome.
It's a very, very good show, and I highly recommend it. So Kevin Can F Himself on AMC.
That sounds awesome. I will stick with the television, same as you. Reservation Dogs on FX, which I watched on Hulu. Yes, I watched on Hulu, which is Taika Waititi's show about Native American teenagers on a reservation, and their like big dream is to go to California, and the show is kind of about them like attempting to get out of the reservation, but it's got this magical realism thing attached to it. So like one kid has like vision quests, like he has visions of like an ancestor, but like it's like the guy shows up, he's like, yeah, like I was at the Battle of Custer Hill and blah blah blah, but I was in the back, like I missed the whole thing, and then I tripped and my horse fell on me and I died. Like that was like, it's so funny, but also extremely tender, can be heartwarming, slaps you in the face just with some cold realism sometimes, like what life on a reservation can be like, the horribleness of it. But it was wonderful. Everybody involved is native of some kind. So like the writers, the crew, everybody, and even Taika Waititi, who's not Native American, obviously, but he grew up on something akin to a reservation in New Zealand. And so like even though it's an American production, the subject matter was very close to him. So I can't recommend it enough. It was kind of the trailers didn't sell it to me, and I was like, I don't really want to watch that. That looks terrible. And then I watched it. I was like, this is great. Everybody needs to watch this right now. So I do recommend Reservation Dogs. That was one of the best things that I'd watched this year. I had seen that advertised a lot on Hulu, but didn't really get a real feel for what it was for. And I heard it talked about a little bit, but that's the sort of the best explanation of it that I've heard, and I'm intrigued by that. It has the cleverness of Waititi, without maybe with a little bit more an injection of realism. So he can be, his stuff is pretty wild or absurdist, and it doesn't, apart from some of the mythical aspects, which are not tons, it's not really super absurdist. So I do recommend. Nice. It's excellent. Right on. Give me one of yours. Mine is actually also a Hulu one. Only Murders in the Building. I guess I'll have to watch that.
You will. So it's so made for you, man. Because I mean, so it's Steve Martin, it's Martin Short. I know you know that. It's Selena Gomez. The three of them are these three strangers who happen to live in the same apartment building. All happen to be obsessed with true crime, and true crime podcasts. And then they are brought together when a murder happens in their building. And because of their shared obsession with true crime podcasts, the three of them decide to start a true crime podcast about the murder that happened in their building and try to solve the murder. And they get themselves entangled in it. And, you know, typical sort of murder mystery TV show thing where like now the murderer is after them and that kind of stuff. And they get involved in the mystery as much as they're trying to solve it. But it's so smart and funny. Like it is the best sort of pseudo detective show in the vein of like a Matlock or a Diagnosis Murder type of a thing where it's like, I'm not actually like, it's not a detective show in the sense of being a cop show, but in the sense of an amateur detective trying to solve mysteries, and how fun it is and how the three of them become closer. And I mean, it's Steve Martin and Martin Short, like the two of them, you can't go wrong with them. And Selena Gomez is fantastic. I've never really seen her act. Haven't followed her career that closely. She's fantastic in this. Like she is such a foil for the two of them, and like, you know, just sort of they develop this rapport of like, oh, shut up, old man. Let me just. It's so fun and so charming and heartwarming, and there are some twists that will surprise you, and it's really excellent writing.
I did see an article recently about like what are some of the best performances of the year, and she was one of them from that show. And some of the like other ones were like really class act performances. Like you're definitely going to get nominated for an Emmy later this season, and she was on that list, and I thought that was great for her.
I think she will. I think she should. There were a couple of moments where like we turned to each other and we were like, that's her Emmy right there. Like there were a couple of scenes that were really stood out. So that's really great show.
All right, next one for me is Made on Netflix, which I think I texted you and told you
just
to watch.
Told me about this recently.
Pretty much where it all landed. Yeah, so it is definitely the best thing I watched this year. Actually, like hands down, it's incredible. So it's a true story about this woman who has a 3-year-old daughter, and she is in an abusive a relationship with a boyfriend, and like the show opens with her leaving with her 3-year-old in the middle of the night. No job, no prospects, whatever. And it's all about her, you know, like becoming a maid, being a maid, and like trying to work the system that is supposed to help her, but actually really only hinders her along the way. And then her continued relationship with the ex-boyfriend, because he's also the father, so he's got to be in his life, and her mom, who is in her own like abusive relationship, but she's like wild and crazy and feels the mantra and the katra and like all that stuff, and she's like her own worst enemy. She doesn't help. Like it is just incredibly good storytelling, and the performances are out of this world. Andy McDowell plays the mother.
Oh, that's awesome! I love her.
And yeah, she's excellent. And the lead of the show is her real daughter in real life. And so their dynamic is unbelievable. I cannot recommend it enough. It's a limited series, so like you're in and you're out in 10 episodes, and it's a tough watch because like, you know, she ends up in like crisis shelters and like all this stuff, but it is just so friggin' good. And I mean, you know, it's a true story, and like they made it like a Netflix show about it, so like maybe there's like a happy ending involved of some kind, like perhaps. So like it's not like, you know, you want to like pull your eyes out sad by the end. Like there is like hopefulness attached to it. Wonderful people in her life that, you know, that come along, but you just, it's the best. It was so good. Everybody should watch it.
That is high praise.
Everybody.
That is high praise. That it was your favorite thing of the year.
And you wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been some excellent stuff this year. And like this is nerdy podcast. There was a lot of good nerd stuff. There was a lot of geek stuff for sure. That was excellent, but Made just pushed it all out.
And that's on Netflix?
The way. Yeah, it's on Netflix. Yep.
Right on.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to stick with another Hulu one. I watched a lot of Hulu this year, I'm realizing.
Hulu is like, maybe I should get rid of Hulu. And then I think about all the stuff that I've actually watched on Hulu. I'm like,
I know, yeah.
There's a lot of good content on there.
There's good stuff on there.
Yeah.
This one is definitely, this is one of the most frank ones that I could have picked. But it is called McCartney 321. And it is a 5 or 6 part limited series that Paul McCartney did. Where he sits down, and it's actually sort of driven by record producer Rick Rubin, who he's an American record producer. He's best known for he worked with like Russell Simmons and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he famously pre-produced like Johnny Cash's like late stuff, like towards the end of his career, that where he like started doing like covers of other stuff. So Rick Rubin is like this, well-known music producer. He grabbed Paul McCartney and was like, I want to sit down with you and just ask you about your songs and like how they got written, how they got recorded. And so it's just this 2 musicians talking to each other. And the interesting thing is he got permission to ask Paul McCartney to play the songs from all throughout his career. He doesn't just pick, he picks popular songs, but also some deeper cuts. And they're listening to the actual like multi-tracks of the song, so they can like turn down the bass or turn down the vocals and just listen to listen to the guitar right there. And he's asking him these like very in-depth questions. For somebody, I've watched I don't know how many hours of Paul McCartney interviews over the course of my life, and I've heard him tell the same stories over and over again about how he wrote Yesterday, how he wrote Let It Be, and like all same stories over and over again. But Rick Rubin has this like curiosity and just kept digging and digging and digging and asking him questions that I've never heard him answer before. So it was a really interesting, they're half an hour. I think the whole series is 2 or 3 hours long. And
which is just a drop in the bucket compared to the other Beatles thing that has come out this year. Yeah.
So it's just a couple hours and it's fascinating. I would say the other Beatles thing, the Get Back documentary, that you have to be a super fan to appreciate. This you can appreciate at any level, because it really is much more quickly paced and much more suited to like a mass audience. So it covers Beatles stuff. It covers a little bit of Wings and his solo career. It's primarily Beatles, but he talks about some of the later stuff in his career as well. And yeah, it's really interesting because he tells all the stories I've heard before, but also a ton that I have not heard before. So whether you're new and new to his catalog and is curious about how he works as an artist and that kind of thing, it was really, really interesting how he writes songs, how songs were recorded, how songs shaped up to be the way they were. So McCartney 321 on Hulu. Loved it. Very cool.
One of my, again, favorite, I'll stick with Netflix. This, again, one of my favorite things, I think I talked about it on the podcast already, is Midnight Mass.
Yes.
Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass. Cannot reiterate how good that was for me, like over and over again. I know not everybody was up on it, but I think mostly everyone agrees it is the best thing that he's done so far in a career that is pretty stellar. For horror fans, because it's like that, it's slow burn existential horror, and it is awesome. So, and I've already talked about it on the podcast, so I'm not going to reiterate anything here. But Midnight Mass, do watch.
I'll give you a quick hit a quick hit for something that I talked about on the podcast as well, and that is Bo Burnham's Inside.
I knew you were going to say that. It was also on my list. Definitely one of the best things.
One of the best things I watched this year. One of the things that affected me the most, and just gave me so much food for thought. So much music that I still sing around my house on an almost daily basis. Just absolutely fantastic. We did a whole episode on it, and then. Tim, when you watched it, we did a little bit of follow-up, so I won't go too deep on it, but like just to say that was one of the best things I watched this year, and at the end of the year, I still feel that way.
Cool. I'm just going to actually combine 2 things that we also did episodes on, so I don't want to go too deep, but No Time to Die, freaking loved. I think it was really one of the best things that I watched this year. And Dune, for me, was also one of the best things that I watched this year. Actually caused me to go and reread the first book, which I enjoyed more on rereading because I had maybe a better conceptualization of it. And I went on to read books 2 and 3, and which I liked 2 It was like a deconstruction of what he had done in the first one, and then 3 was kind of a wrap of the initial trilogy, which was nice. Wild, and I loved it. It was great.
So you'd read book 1 before. Had you read 2 or 3 before? No, right? Okay.
Nope, I had only read book 1, and I liked it. I didn't love it. I got what he was doing, and I just not that I wasn't on board, and maybe I just wasn't in the mood. And so then I went. So I went back, and I was maybe because I had maybe realigned what it was, what I was supposed to be reading instead of what the fan community or whatever told me I was reading. Sure. So that happens sometimes. So I liked it more, and then I didn't have any context for Dunes 2 and 3, so I was just able to read them as they were, and I very much enjoyed them. So yeah, so those were 2 quick hits for me.
Awesome. I will quickly talk about the current season. It's not finished yet as we're recording this. The current season of Doctor Who has been.
Didn't it just?
It started several weeks ago at this point. Yeah,
okay.
We're probably halfway through the season now. As we record this, by the time you're hearing this, it might be almost over, if not actually over. But it has been so far it has been such a joy to me because I have loved Doctor Who for a long time now, and I felt it always goes through sort of good phases and less good phases. It sort of goes up and down, right? And that's just sort of, with a long running show, you're going to get that. Since Jodie Whittaker took over as the Doctor, that also coincided with the creative change in the creative team, change in the showrunner, and I felt like the quality of the storytelling wasn't quite up to snuff. And a lot of people felt this way. A lot of people also just didn't like Jodie Whittaker because they didn't like a woman being the Doctor, and that's a different thing. I actually really liked her performance a lot, but it was the stories that were not keeping me. This season is. She's still the Doctor. Right? She's still a Doctor, okay. But I think the creative team has found their footing, and it's too bad because this is probably the last season for this creative team. But they're going out with a bang, it seems like, and it is my favorite Doctor Who season so far in 5 or 6 years, probably, maybe more.
Wow, that's big praise. That's huge praise.
It is. It's some of the best stuff they've done in a long, long time. So I'm really, really enjoying it, and just like every week, they're pulling out all the stops. So it's cool. Good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. So this current season of Doctor Who, called Doctor Who Flux, has been fantastic. Really enjoying it. And I hope the season ends on a good note so that I can say that all the way to the end. But so far, anyway, I'm just loving to see it return to form.
Cool. One of mine is the documentary Val, which is Val Kilmer's documentary about himself, which is slightly
really
self-serving.
Wanted to see that, actually. I had forgotten about that.
It's really, really good. It's really, really good. So, since he was a kid, just documented his life, just always filming something. And so he used to, go on the film sets, and he was one of the first people, to have a handheld camera, and he just went and he filmed all this stuff, and it shows the room of tapes and tapes and tapes and tapes and tapes and reels and reels and reels of all this stuff. And he was like, I'm just gonna make a documentary about my career. I have all this stuff, I might as well let people see a side of me that they've never seen before. Talks about having cancer and everything like that, but the focus is his life, his career, what he was like, and all this stuff, really what he wanted to do. And it just gave me such an insight into who he was and his character, what he stood for. He doesn't really sugarcoat his own decisions or his own light about stuff. And, and I had almost forgotten how much I've actually seen of his career and his filmography. And then stuff that I didn't even know he did. He wrote a one-man show about Mark Twain and toured the country doing it. Right.
I did not know that.
He has footage of it, or me either. And he has footage of it, and it's really good.
Wow.
Really, really good. And so I just I was intrigued, and so I actually watched with my wife, who barely was cognizant of Val Kilmer at all. Was he's Moses and the Prince of Egypt. That's really all I know about Val Kilmer. And she even she liked it, so nice. Which was good, which is, I guess, is the mark of a good documentary, because it tells a good story,
right?
Whether you know the content of the subject matter or not,
right. Very cool. Yeah, that looked very interesting to me. I had seen, like, when it came out, I saw some clips on, I don't know, talk shows and whatnot, and it looked really, really interesting. And yeah, I have to see. I guess it's on Amazon Prime, so I'll have to check it out. In the few minutes we have left, do you have any more highlights you want to go through? Do you want to maybe do a speed round of lowlights?
Yeah, I got two more highlights, maybe three.
Hit me.
That well, it's funny that you say hit me, because we actually did a hit me with your best shot on it, and that's the Masters of the Universe show on Netflix. It did its first 5, and then it just actually recently released the second half or season 2, the other 5, and it's strong. Like, it's just so much fun. And it got dark, and I just really appreciated that, not being a He-Man or Master of the Universe fan as a kid, and just like being able to absorb myself in a world that people love. And like, I know really toxic fans weren't a fan of the show, but I know regular people liked it, so that's all that matters to me. So I like that. All the Marvel shows that Disney Plus has put out, we've done episodes on all of them, so I'll kind of leave it there, but those were definitely some highlights.
I had Loki on my list for sure.
We don't talk about and I actually am really digging, it's only half done, but the Batwoman season 3, it's a half season this year. It's only 13 episodes, and I've been really lukewarm on seasons 1 and 2. Like, I don't even think I finished season 1, and then I did watch season 2, but kind of like when I got to it, and like season 3 has been like I will watch the next episode when it comes out.
Nice.
Show, like, and I don't know, they've just the maybe the more concise storytelling mixed with some really intriguing ideas. They've moved to like, okay, so if there's Batwoman, who is like the next generation, here's the next generation of Bat family. The season 3 has been about the next generation of Bat villains. And so it's like all of like Batman's trophies at the end of season 2, spoilers, get like released into Gotham at a different way. So like different people have been picking them up. So it's like a new Mad Hatter and a new Mr. Freeze and a new Poison Ivy and a new this and a new this and a new this. And so like, and Renee Montoya's in it. And it's been really solid as a Batman fan or Bat family fan. That's been really fun to watch for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I love that idea of like having a new generation of all those classic villains. That's a great idea. I'll just mention Superman and Lois season 1 was a highlight for me this year. Getting the podcast about it over at Superman and Lois TV Talk was great, but just as a fan watching it, like it was just some really, really good Superman stuff, and having that different perspective of like, here's a Superman who's been Superman for 20 years already, and so it's not just the story of like, him, not an origin story and not a discovering himself or anything like he's been doing the job for 20 years and he's already damn good at it. And then the family dynamics, that stuff was really, really cool, and I loved that. Obviously talked about that a lot on another podcast. You can go there and hear my more in-depth thoughts on it over there. And then the last thing I'll mention was In the Heights. In the Heights was like one of my favorite like fun things I saw this year. Like, it brought me a lot of joy.
That's great.
It was a great version of that show adapted to the big screen. I've only seen it the once in the theater, but like it stuck with me. It was such an uplifting and like fun viewing experience. I guess it helps that it was my first movie back in the theaters since the end of or beginning of 2020.
Totally.
But but yeah, it was just loved it. So In the Heights makes the list.
Oh, good. I am glad
to hear it.
I want to do, because I read a lot of books this year. I just want to run through some books that I very much enjoyed. So I just talked about Dune. I read this book called Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt, which is about a town in the Hudson Valley that was cursed by a witch in the 1600s, and they just have perpetually lived with that curse for hundreds of years. And so like the town's generation, they're like hundreds of years removed and they're still living with the curse. So it's about like how they've adapted to living with the curse in the town. And like she still shows up, but they like track her with apps, and they're like, okay, grandma is over here in this person's house, and like what happens when all that kind of unravels. And it was fun. It was really interesting. I enjoyed that. I read Taste: My Life Through Food, which is the Stanley Tucci memoir, which was amazing. Listen to it, read it, whatever. It's so good.
I love him.
Especially if you love the Tooch.
I do.
But
his CNN series, by the way, was also fantastic.
Yes, tour through Italy.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet because I don't have cable, so I was waiting for it to stream, and now that it is, but I don't want to watch it because I just want to eat pasta all the time if I watch it. Yeah. So, but he gives some family recipes in the book, which was really fun. So I read Stephen King's Billy Summers, which is about a hitman's last job, which I really liked. I read basically all of Frederick Bachman's books, like A Man Called Uwe, Anxious People, Beartown. Recommend all of them. Let me see. It took me over a year, but in 2021 I finished all 15 books of the Wheel of Time.
Wow, good for
series,
you.
which thank you. They're quite large.
Yeah.
And it took a very long
There's
time.
15 of them. That's crazy.
There's 14 in the main story and one prequel. And so I do recommend that. I also recommend the show on Amazon Prime, which is still going as of recording this podcast. I think there are only 4 episodes in. Real fun if you're looking for quality fantasy to kind of fill the void from Game of Thrones still. This is the way to go. Project Hail Mary, which is the newest Andy Weir book. From which was, I think, better than The Martian. Personally,
Whoa,
it's excellent. It's so good, and I love The Martian. Like, I've read it twice, and Project Hail Mary is really good. Really, really good. It's about a guy that wakes up in a spaceship or a shuttle without any memory of how he got there.
Ooh, it gives me Moon vibes.
So he has to, but definitely not as trippy as Moon. But so he has to it's like hibernation sickness or whatever. So he his memories will come back as it goes. You like that really subtle Star Wars reference?
I do. I enjoyed it.
I gave you. Thank you. Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars, The High Republic. I read.
Yes.
I've been reading all the young adult and regular books. The adult ones are okay, but I actually really like the young adult ones. I find them better. Maybe because they're a little less serious or they're more character driven, which is what good Star Wars really is. It's character driven. So I've been enjoying those. And it wouldn't be a nerd show if I didn't talk about some comics that I read that I really liked. So here we go, real rapid fire. The Swamp Thing by Ram V, his new take on Swamp Thing, really liked. Nightwing by Tom Taylor has been excellent. If you even remotely care about Nightwing, it probably is the best thing I've ever seen Nightwing ever do.
Whoa.
Ever. It's so good. All of it is just so good. Dang. It's like the Ted Lasso of comic books. It's just amazing.
Wow.
Oh, Ted Lasso. Yeah. Yeah, of course. We've talked about it too. Stray Dogs by Tony Fleeks, which is like All Dogs Go to Heaven meets Seven or Silence of the Lambs or something like that. It's just wild. It's like Don Bluth cartoons for adults. In Don Bluth, and I mean, if you remember any Don Bluth cartoon, you're like, they're always serious and dark and will give you nightmares. For kids, maybe adults too. But Stray Dogs. It's about this dog that ends up in this owner's new house full of all these other dogs, and the dog can't remember how it got there. She's like, I had an owner, but I don't remember how, and whatever else, and and then so it's unraveling the mystery of how she ended up in that house.
Big memory loss year for you this year. Lots of memory loss.
Well, it was a tough year, frankly. We want to forget things.
You know what? We read to forget.
Yes, we do. Once in Future by Karen Gillan, which is a redo of I think I've talked about it on the show before actually, but it's all myths and the people who protect the world.
Yeah.
It's King Arthur and Beowulf and Gilgamesh, but it's King Arthur's the bad guy, and it's the art is amazing. Dan Moore is the artist, and it's so fun. And finally, James Tynion's run on Batman I've been really enjoying because you can't, I love me some Batman, and it's been good fun. There it is. I've probably forgotten more, but it's when you do best of, all of a sudden you're like, I've absorbed
so much. There's so much more stuff I could. I mean, I haven't even. The Beatles Get Back is maybe the best thing I watched all year.
Its own thing. We will
talk about
conquer
it
on. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So, there's a lot that I haven't even gotten to mention yet, which I didn't even really mention some lowlights, which is, I think, interesting that, we actually ended up seeing so much good content, didn't have tons of lowlights to even talk about, things that were just mediocre.
I find that as I was looking back and compiling my list, this year I didn't consume as much stuff that I didn't enjoy. And I feel like that's because I consumed so much of it at home. Like when you're going to the theater, not everything's going to be a hit. Even if it looks good, you go to, if you're seeing a lot of movies in the theater, and you used to see a lot of movies in the theater, way more than I ever did. But not all of them are going to be winners, right? But when you're watching stuff at home, you can be a little bit more choosy about what you're going to watch, right? And and if it sucks, you can bail. And I found that because of that, I consumed a lot more. The ratio of stuff I enjoyed to stuff I didn't enjoy was a much more favorable ratio this year.
I agree. There's some stuff that was like Halloween Kills was not great. But like I enjoyed Old more than I thought. Venom Let There Be Carnage was a movie that I watched. Like it was not really like, it was not it was not terrible. It wasn't great. It was a low light. It wasn't complete, like the lights didn't turn off. It was just on. And there was some of that, some of that going on to, Muppets Haunted Mansion, and Red Notice was like it was fun, but like probably never watch it again.
Sure.
But the people be hating on it, but I'm like, it's fine. It's, what did you expect? But you're right. But a lot of good stuff, and stuff that I didn't even mention.
Yeah.
So,
for me, lowlights, I mean, like Rutherford Falls on Peacock was just okay. I had high hopes for it.
Yep. I watched 2 episodes and gave up, I think.
It got better after that, but not significantly. It was fine. It was interesting, but it wasn't, they didn't do what they could have done with it. Honestly, I kind of thought Star Wars: The Bad Batch was just sort of okay. It wasn't really for me.
I totally forgot I watched The Bad Batch. Yeah, that was probably a low light. Like, it started strong and it just kind of was there the rest of the time.
And I think we said this in our episode on the show that, like, I think it's going to get better, and I think it's probably going to end up being a very important part of the Star Wars canon when all's said and done. Kind of like Clone Wars was just okay when it started, and then it became this hugely important piece of the mythology. Like I could see Bad Batch doing that.
And Rebels, actually.
And Rebels, for that matter.
Just just okay. Yeah, they were all slow starts.
Yeah. So I could see that being the case. Eternals, I just didn't love it.
Yep. No, that was Godzilla versus Kong was just okay. Mortal Kombat was fine. Riot and the Last Dragon was fine. Like, none of them were bad. They were all just like things that existed. What was good was Luca, actually. Pixar's Luca was good.
I really want to see that too. Yeah, that's another one that I just keep forgetting to check out. And I actually really, really want to.
That was good. Oh, Batman Long Halloween parts 1 and 2. That was solid. That was a highlight. So there's been some quality stuff. I did watch Injustice, the animated take on Injustice, and tons of people liked it. I actually really liked it. I thought it was well constructed, and I am not a fan of Evil Superman or anything, but I thought that it actually fixed some of the greater story errors of what was just an excuse to fight in a video game, which turned into a comic, which turned into a movie. There's some better stuff in it by the end, and they took the best stuff of the comic, and if you just like get around Evil Superman for being the sake of Evil Superman, then I actually really enjoyed it, and some of the performances were quite good. Yeah. So, but anyway, Frank, that was all low light stuff that we talked about. But if you could tell people where to find us, that would be great.
Well, you can find us at beerwithgeeks.com or at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. That's also where you can find all of our other shows, like Read Up that Tim mentioned, his podcast where he talks about books intellectually and stuff. You can also check us out on Twitter at beerwithgeeks, or email us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. You can find this show anywhere podcasts are found, and if you're listening to us, chances are you've already found us there. But if you're not already subscribed, that would be huge. It would be a huge help to get every episode, and that really helps us out. And also, if you could leave a rating or review if you haven't done that already, subscribing and rating and or reviewing a show helps us tremendously in terms of getting found by new people. So please consider doing that if you haven't already. Anywhere podcasts are found, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find Beer with Geeks. So just give it a search, and us and all the other Thought Bubble audio shows thank you very much.
Cool, Frank. Well, thank you so much for being my friend all the way through 2021. I appreciate it.
I would not have it any other way, my friend.
Same. Well, until next time then.
Cheers.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Cheers.